It was nearly 3 a.m., so it was soon time for me to close the McDonald's and go home. It was only 2 staff members and myself working that night. I was hoping no one will come in and place an order. I took the cash register to the manager's office and heard someone tapping on the window. I peeped through the blinds and saw a human figure standing in the dark. What caught my attention was the weird-looking shoes this person was wearing. This person walked towards the street light, so I saw his face. This person was dressed up like a Ronald McDonald clown, but the extremely creepy version of him. I saw tears running down his eyes, messing up his creepily painted face. He pulled a machete from his waist, pointed it at me and walked towards me at a swift pace. I became frantic and wasted no time running to the dining area. I said to my 2 colleagues that I saw an extremely sad-looking clown outside holding a machete. Thank goodness no customer was here. I quickly locked the front door and one of my colleagues phoned the police. The clown was standing outside the front door with a terrifyingly sad face. He banged his fist on the glass panel and stared right at us. By this time my colleagues and I hid behind the counter. He tapped the glass with the machete. He had a nasty grin on his face. He dropped his hands to his side and walked away. I thought he had left, but it got worse. I receive a text message from an unknown number. I look at the message and it was from that terrified clown, but how did he get my number, I asked. His text message said it was going to kill me for what I've done to him. He sent another text saying he's going to cut me up and put my flesh between 2 buns and eat me like a Big Mac. Now I knew who he was. He was my ex-boyfriend. A few months back I broke up with him because he was an immature who wasn't ready for a committed relationship. I knew I hurt his feelings when I started dating one of our duty manager. I've moved on, but he couldn't do the same thing. He became jealous and started to harass me at work, so I reported him and he was dismissed. He returned to the front door with the machete in his hand. Lucky the police came in time and arrested him. He sat down in the back of the police van. I came up to him. I told him, in life, pain cannot be avoided, but you can choose what kind of pain it will be, a pain of change or a pain of 1,000 death and regret. He chose a pain of 1,000 death and regret. I stood there and watched the police van drove away with him.
It was my son's birthday, so my wife and I agreed to have his smarty party at a KFC play area. We hired a mascot colonel to party with us. We reached a KFC and a colonel look-alike was standing outside. We waved to him and he waved back to us. We told the colonel that we need to do a final payment, so he took our son to the play area. We paid rest of the money to the restaurant manager. He told us that the colonel is running a little late, but he'll be here soon. I told the manager that the colonel is already here. He took my son to the play area. The manager looked surprised. He shook his head no. He said he just talked to the colonel on the phone and furthermore, the play area is locked. My wife and I looked straight at each other and we all ran to the play area. We looked around and called our son but they were both gone. Oh my god, I shouted, my son has been kidnapped. This imposter colonel drove on some remote area filled with bushes and trees. The creepy colonel parked his car in front of a rundown house that needed many repairs. He dragged my son from out of the car and took him inside the house that had a foul smell. He tied up my frightened son and sharpened the machete. He looked at my son and said, I love having children for dinner. I'm not hungry. I don't want your filthy food, said my son. Oh, you're not here to eat my filthy food, you're here to be my filthy food, said the creepy colonel. Do you know why my advert says, finger licking good? Because I'm gonna have your tiny fingers for starters and the rest of you will be my main menu, he said. You eat children? My son asked. Yes, I always love to have a kid's meal, replied the colonel. My son had an Apple Watch on his hand that had Life 360 apps installed on it. His location showed up on the apps. We called the police and they wasted no time to get there. Later that evening, police surrounded that property before they moved in. The house smelled so horrible and there was flies everywhere. The police saw some corpses on the table which were too disturbing for me to describe. The colonel was trying to run, but the police captured him and he was arrested. A policeman untied our son and we all reunite. He still had his smarty party, but with the right mascot colonel. We learn a value lesson that day. Never leave your kids with just anyone. Get some verification to see if this person is legit. Today the police are still combing through all those body parts they found at that house to match them with people who were reported missing.
Hi, I'm Amanda. I work at the Jolly Bees in Earl's Courts. I work together with Jewel, April and a tiny petite one named Helga. Helga recently relocated to London from the Philippines. One night we were working at Jolly Bee. It was one of those quiet evenings, so Jewel, April and I sat behind the counter and used our phones. Helga was mopping the dining area. It was 5 minutes before closing time, so I went to close the front door. A man came inside. He was wearing a Jolly Bee costume. He had a creepily looking ears-to-ears smile. His costume didn't look like the normal Jolly Bee costume. He danced his way to the counter. He jumped on top of the counter and crosses his legs. I told him nicely to get off the counter. He jumped down from the counter and asked for chicken. Chicken, I need chicken. I need chicken now, he demanded. Sorry, we're closing now. I replied, I don't care if you're open or close, I need chicken. He shouted. You see that old KFC guy across the road? He says finger licking good. At Jolly Bee, it's chicken licking good, so go make me some chicken now. The girls and I folded our arms in protest that we're not going to be bullied to make chicken after closing time because we're not getting paid for it. He turned around and walked through the front door. I immediately locked it. I asked Jewel to check if the back door was locked. She went to the ladies' restroom first. We waited at the front door for Jewel. What's taking her so long? I asked. Suddenly we heard Jewel screaming and we ran to the back entrance. We saw that same crazy guy dressed up like Jolly Bee holding a knife at Jewel's throat. If you don't make me some chicken, I'm going to slit her throat and drink her blood. Helga said, let her go, I'll make chicken for you. We all looked at Helga, hoping that she has a very good plan. Because she's not a chef. And if I remember correctly, Helga said she couldn't even cook to save her life, much less to save someone else's life. So he let Jewel go and point the knife at Helga, marching her to the kitchen area. Helga eyed at us and eyeballed the meal deal sign on the wall. I asked him if he'd like a meal deal. He turned his head to me. Helga kicked him in his face and he fell to the ground. April stepped on his hand that had the knife. The rest of us used pots and pans to knock him out. We threw him out of the restaurant. We tied him up on a streetlight pole. The next day people thought he was our Jolly Bee mascot and took selfie with him. It's always important to work together as a team. Teamwork makes a dream work. That's why we have each other's back. You see, he slipped in through the back door and held Jewel as hostage when she went to lock it. Before I go, have I told you that Helga holds a black belt in Taekwondo? So no, I wouldn't mess with her. Thank you for watching.
I've been working at Wendy's for 2 months now, just so I can earn some cash, to pay my bills and put food on the table. One day, a kid had a diarrhea inside the dining area. While I was mopping the floor, I saw a nice girl sitting by herself in the corner seat. She had on a black crop top and a short jeans skirt. I couldn't help notice how unhappy she was. I went over to her. I asked her if she's okay. She told me she had a fight with her boyfriend, because he cheated on her. I'm sorry to hear, I replied. My shift finishes in 20 minutes, so if you want, we can go for a walk. Really? She asked excitedly. Yes, I replied, just stay here, and I'll get you something to eat. My manager is a cool guy, so I asked him if I could give her a burger or something, and he said yes I can. We exchanged details. Every day we sent message to each other. Finally she moved into my apartment. That's when things started to get weird. She said she wanted to be my wife. Okay, I have no problem with that, but when I saw her standing in front of the mirror, she had a nasty grin on her face. I heard her laughing in the bathroom. I opened the bathroom door. I saw her just standing there. She held a knife to her throat. She had the worst smile I've ever seen. This girl is a psychopathic and she have to go. So I asked her politely to leave my house. She became violent. She grabbed my laptop and threw it at me. She banged her head against the wall. Blood was running down her face. I held her as tightly as I can and begged her to stop. She yelled at me. She accused me of having an affair with Wendy's. I told her Wendy's don't exist as a person, I only flip burgers there. It's been a month since the nightmare was gone. Yep, I managed to kick her out of my apartment. One day I was at work. She sent me a message on my WhatsApps. I opened the message and I saw a photo of her dressed up like Wendy's. She held a knife in her hand. She was standing outside. She sent another message with a caption saying, "Do you love me now?" I looked at the front door. She held the knife over her wrist. What she did next made an old lady faint. She began cutting herself. She had that creepy smile on her face. She stuck out her thong at me and cut herself repeatedly. I ran outside and begged her to stop, but she wouldn't listen. A group of policemen came over and she dropped the knife. She was arrested and taken into custody. She's now at a mental hospital. Mental illness is a serious problem, so I'm sure she'll get the help she needs.